Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to the Prosperous Yogini podcast, episode 24. And today's episode is quite an interesting one. It's a change from what I had planned, but I am really excited about this one. A few weeks ago, I sent out a Google form to all the yoga teachers that were in my community. I've got some on a mailing list and I've got some in a closed Facebook group. And the form went something along the lines of, could you spend 10 minutes answering these questions about where you are in your yoga business so I get a better understanding how best I can help you? Now, before I go on to today's podcast, I actually just really want to say for all of you, do this. I was really resistant of doing it. I think there was a part of me that was like, I've created all this training course, this mentoring program, this podcast. I'm putting out there what I think you need. I hope it's useful. And then there's this like maybe the ego. I was a bit like, what if they need something else, Amy? Have you asked them? And like, feel like I have a pretty good understanding about where people are because I work a lot one-to-one with people on my training courses. But totally, I've been teaching yoga for 13 years now. I've been in business for 13 years now. So it's been really, really useful for me to go to you guys and say, hey, where are you in your business and how can I help you? As part of that form, at the bottom, there was like a question that went something along the lines of, while you've got my attention, is there anything you want to ask me? And today's podcast is I am answering your questions. And all I've done in preparation for today's podcast is actually write the questions down and I'm just going to answer them. And it's a great way for you guys, if you are thinking about joining my mentoring program and working with me further, it's a great way for you guys to see what coaching, mentoring with me looks like. I have been teaching for 13 years, and when you work with me, you're effectively tapping into all that years of experience that I've got. When I'm giving my advice, it's just coming from that place of, I've done this, I tried this happened to me. I've been in it for 13 years. I've been full-time in my business for 10 years, and I prove it's possible. If I can do it, you can too. Anyway, today's episode is not about me, it's about you. So let's get going. Question number 1 was from a teacher who teaches pregnancy yoga, and help my pregnancy classes are quiet. Now, I have also taught pregnancy yoga for over 10 years, and I know the challenge, particularly when you teach pregnancy yoga and mum and baby yoga. The challenge is with this type of class is you're not building up your consistent group of students that come in, week out. Pregnant women at best are with you for about 6 months, and same at the other side of it, postnatally, babies get older, women return to work. So you're constantly having to find a new stream of pregnant women coming to your classes. I have 100% experienced over the 10 years, my pregnancy numbers radically going up and down. Like, I can give you an example where I am now. Like, before, in the start in September, I have a daytime Friday pregnancy class at 11 o'clock, and I think I had like 10 or 12 booked on. A lot of those women have either had their babies or are now 38, 39 weeks. And class numbers are down to 4 or 5. And at the moment, I think I had one inquiry. Like, I know I've learned to just wave the ride of the numbers going up and down. It is just the nature of teaching pregnancy yoga. Love teaching pregnancy yoga. I know this teacher who classes are low, numbers are currently low. I know she loves teaching pregnancy yoga too. The challenge is we've still got costs, haven't we? We've still got costs of travel. We've still got costs of renting space. And there's also the energetic cost of going out to deliver that class. And when numbers are low, it is challenging to feel like the energetic exchange is sustainable. So here is what I would recommend. First of all, is I always teach a pregnancy yoga class around another class. So I'll give you an example of when I used to teach pregnancy yoga on a Saturday morning. I would do a 9 o'clock vinyasa yoga class and a 10:30 pregnancy yoga class. That vinyasa class had that solid tribe of people that came week in, week out. Very established class, always profitable. That cushioned me for when I went through periods of time when my pregnancy yoga classes numbers were low. I would also see that your overall profit and loss in terms of that pregnancy class, I wouldn't just see it as a weekly thing, just see it also as an overall annual thing. So you're riding out the quieter times, knowing that there are other times when the class is more profitable. So sandwiching it next to another class works really, really well. Definitely having a sense of the overall, not just weekly profit and loss, but the overall annual profit and loss. Double check that you can't get your visibility back up when we're teaching local classes, whether it's pregnancy or not. I'm not saying you have to be on Instagram all the time at all. Go back to your previous students, your previous pregnancy ladies, check in with them, say hi, don't forget, if you do know anyone that's pregnant, send them my way. Your students are your raving fans. They're the best people to help fill your classes, as well as perhaps using local Facebook groups can be really useful. Google Business Center. So if I type in pregnancy yoga Cornwall, that don't need to have search engine optimization nailed on my website, or that is preferable. But if I've got a Google Business Center listing me for teaching pregnancy yoga at the place that I'm teaching, then if someone Googles pregnancy yoga, I come up in that area. And a lot of your pregnant women will be beginners or new to yoga. A lot of women get pregnant like, oh, I'll take up yoga. So they will be Googling it. They'll be asking their friends, they'll be Googling it. And I think we forget, I think we have definitely forgotten in this post-COVID era of the power of the poster, the power of the flyer. So in the area where you teach, go around and put up a flyer, a poster, go into a local cafe where mums might be hanging out. And I think all of this as a kind of like an energetic, like, come on, here I am teaching pregnancy yoga, and that sends out that energy. And it always surprises me when I have that sort of like, oh, you know what, this class is a bit quiet, whatever it is, this class is a bit quiet at the moment. I just need to shout about this a bit more. And I think I listened to something really useful the other day when it comes to like marketing, so telling people about our yoga offers, whether we're posting on social media, whether we're sending out a newsletter, whether we're individually emailing ex-students to say, hey, how are you, don't forget, tell all your mates, whether we're talking to people, we can feel like we're just boring people about what we're doing, just going on and on about it, repeating ourselves. You are the only person that sees 100% of your marketing, the only person. So you can never talk enough about it, particularly like a class like pregnancy, mum and baby yoga, where you are having to continually find new students. So lots of love there. It is one of the challenges. There are so many benefits in it. Like teaching pregnancy yoga is such a joy, but it is certainly one of the challenges of teaching pregnant women. So try and sandwich another class around it, like a general yoga class where you can get those established students. If that's not possible for you, alongside that as well, have a boost, have a little rhythm, find a rhythm. So your marketing isn't random, there is some rhythm where you're regularly, because you're going to have to be regularly finding new students, you're regularly telling people about your pregnancy yoga classes. And do make sure that if I Google pregnancy yoga in your area, that you come up. Okay, so the next question was about really sort of like, I think, niching. So there's lots of advice out there. You must just be really clear about what you do and really clear on your niche. Okay. And I feel like this is the super niches versus the non-super niches. I like, some people really, really benefit, okay, from having one offer, one very clear audience that they target, okay, and that really works for them. Other people, that I'm like one of these people, like, if you step back and see what I do, like, I have specialism in pregnancy, postnatal, toddler, and in yoga. I run online training courses in them. I run foundation yoga teacher training courses. I have a mentoring program, a podcast. I mean, what do I do? I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a trainer, I'm a mentor, and I have got quite a lot of offers. And I love it. It suits me. So if you're into human design a bit, then it's worth checking out human design. I'm a generator. So creating, and it's what lights me up. Other people, they feel overwhelmed by too much creation. So it's what works for you. And I had this feeling, there were two questions around this, but both teachers were feeling like a little bit constrained. The challenge when you have by constrained by feeling that this is what they do and they've just got to stay there, right? The challenge that we have when we have several offers, it's then, listen, there is no such thing. Okay, what the niches do really get right, okay, is there's no such thing as yoga for all, general yoga class suitable for all, everybody. That doesn't exist. Okay, that just doesn't exist. You are, now this will end the niche drama. You are the niche in your business. People that come into your yoga offers, whether it be a class, a retreat, a workshop, an online membership, whatever it is, people that are coming to your yoga offers are coming to, because of you, to come to tap into your energy, your Wi-Fi, to come and do yoga with you. You are the niche in your business. And as human beings, most of us have interests that change over time. Like, of course, I'm still very passionate about pregnancy and postnatal yoga. When my children were young, when I was growing babies, delivering babies, healing postnatally, that I was really, really passionate and obsessive about this topic. Then as my children got a bit older, I started to get curious more about the anatomy, and I trained with a teacher called Gary Carter, who just like exploded my mind when it comes to the reality. Like, I was like, everything I knew about anatomy up to this point had been a total lie. And like he taught me about fascial anatomy and how the human body actually exists. Now, this sparked a major interest into yin yoga, and as I've got older, yin yoga has really helped me actually keep moving and keep surfing. So yin's become in recent years another passion of mine. Now, it would have been ridiculous if I said, oh no, I can't possibly teach yin yoga and I can't possibly offer a yin training course. Even though I'm passionate about it, I practice it regularly. I've got all this information about the fascia and the impact of yin on our fascia. No, I can't possibly do that because my niche is pregnancy and postnatal yoga. Can you imagine how ridiculous that would be? But that's sometimes how that niching messaging can make us feel. So I'd like you to say you're the niche in your business. The challenge is, yes, if you've got different offers that will suit different people, then it's communicating that. Because yeah, totally, if you teach chair yoga, restorative yoga, and Ashtanga yoga, they are different groups of people. The people coming to your chair yoga, probably you don't want them in your Ashtanga yoga. It's not suitable for them, and vice versa. So that's about just knowing who your offer is for. And then making sure when you're communicating this in your messaging, in your copy, that that is clear. There isn't, yoga is for everybody, but your class is not for everybody, okay? Like a class that suits beginners right up to someone who's a really experienced yogi. I don't know. I don't know if that really truly exists, okay? But there is also a feeling that somebody said, like, I'm confused when it comes to diversifying. Should I diversify my offers into yoga and well-being? And I see this quite a lot. Like, you'll have yoga teachers, but they also do massage maybe, or they do Reiki, and they feel like they've got to start a new social media. And I'm like, do not do that. Do you really want the double work of social media? And I think you're a yoga teacher, and yoga comes under the umbrella of well-being, body work completely, coaching, mentoring, life coaching, all healing. This is all part of yoga, so it can come under that umbrella. Like if you're a yoga teacher but you also have a gardening business, well, they're two very separate things, and it would be hard on your social media or on your website to one day post about your yoga classes, the next day talk about a garden that you landscaped. So I think none of you are in that place, by the way, but I think it's totally fine to have a business that has a diverse range of offers if that works for you. Now, one of the questions was, look, I'd love to hear some success stories about how you can make it as a full-time yoga teacher. The majority of people who responded to this survey that I did were part-time yoga teachers and part-time self-employed yoga teachers, and had a part-time employed role. and or were mums to 1 or 2 or 3 children, okay, or 4 children, I think in some cases. And motherhood is a full-time job, all right? So it's pretty common for most yoga teachers to work part-time in their business, but it is 100% possible if you want to, if it works for you, to work full-time in your business. I have worked full-time in my business for 10 years. I think it's episode 6 if you listen to myself and Jane Craddock, who I run my training course with. She's full-time in her business. If you are full-time in your yoga business, I think for a lot of us it does work to have like a range of offers. I see a lot of people do massage alongside yoga, for example. You can have one super offer. I know there are teachers that run like an online membership that can very, very scalable, and they have built this up. So there's lots of people in this, and that's their only and main source of income. There's not one way to do it, but it is totally possible. What I recommend to people is like Jane was like on episode 6, if you want to work full-time in your yoga business, give up your job and do it tomorrow. That would be very stressful for me. Okay, so that stress wouldn't work. So I totally was full-time school teacher, started to train as a yoga teacher, started to build my yoga business. As that income became consistent in my yoga business, I started to go part-time as a yoga teacher. And I remember pre-kids just being a really lovely balance, because I felt the security of the employed job, but also because of that security and any stress, the yoga was flourishing. It was abundant. I wasn't in this fear, graspy, scarcity mindset. Then I had my first child, and I was like, actually, I want to be full-time in my business so I can create a job around my children. And that was driven by so much love that was the reality that I created. Like, any job is hard. Any job is hard sometimes. My husband is a secondary school teacher. His job can be really hard sometimes. I'm a full-time yoga teacher. My job sometimes can be hard. I just think we mustn't gloss over, like, that all aspects. I'm going to go out there, like, say, like, majority of a lot of us when we're working, there are aspects or times within our work life where things, for whatever reason, feels hard. But it is totally possible to be a full-time yoga teacher. I say this a lot. The yoga industry is worth £37 billion globally. It's projected, I think, to grow to 67 billion in 2027. This is according to Google. Yes, if you want to be a full-time yoga teacher and earn enough money for you, it is totally, totally possible. How you do that, whether you go all in or whether you build up your business, you purposely, you don't go, oh, I think I'd like to be a full-time yoga teacher, I'll see what happens. That's not overly like going to create inspired action. The inspired action came from, right, I've given up my job. I've given up my paid job as a school teacher because I want to create an employed job, sharing my passion with the world yoga that fits around my children. And that was so, I'm doing this, it's happening, that it happened. So you've got to really be in a place where you totally believe it can happen, and then you'll take inspired action to create that. Our thoughts inspire our beliefs inspire our actions. If we believe it's not possible to make money from yoga, if we believe it's hard to be a full-time yoga teacher, then that is what we will find. Okay, so the best thing you can do is find as many examples as you can of yoga teachers. I'm one of them. Jane's one of them. I've got a couple of people in my mentorship program who are full-time self-employed. Okay. Hang around with people who are doing it, who are proving it's possible. Get out of any Facebook group where people are moaning about how hard it is to be a yoga teacher. Okay. Aspects of running a business and being self-employed, separate from the service of yoga that you provide, it can just be hard. This isn't necessarily easy, okay, all of the time, but it does allow you to create a way of working, living that totally honors you. And I love my job, and 100% you can be full-time. Come onto my mentorship program. I can make it happen. Okay, so then a lot of stuff around our beautiful brain came up. So self-limiting beliefs, okay, the mind trash. Guys, you're yoga teachers, you know about this. Patanjali talks about the noise of the mind stuff. And this really, again, comes back to that last part I was making. I just want you to forget the title yoga teacher for a moment. Just forget it, right? Okay. You are self-employed, whether it be part-time, full-time, whether you're teaching one class or you're running a studio, right? I don't care, right? You are self-employed in a service-based industry. The service you provide is teaching yoga, all right? Service-based industry. You're more than likely going to be female. 75% of all yoga teachers globally are female, according to Google. I believe them. Just have a look around, like training courses, Instagram. The majority of yoga teachers are women, okay? Female, self-employed in a service-based industry, where you have to put yourself out there, where yoga is completely unregulated, let's be honest. Okay, so most people do their teacher training course and it's like, go and teach. Like when I trained to be a school teacher, I did a year's training. Like after my degree, I did a year's training, my PGCE year. Then I got a job in a school where I had my NQT year, my newly qualified year, which meant I got additional support, experienced teachers coming in and supporting me. And then following on from that, it continued throughout my profession. Yoga teachers, we're just out there. We're just out there on our own, making it up as we go along, right? And it sometimes our beautiful brain will really step in and tell us stuff like we're not good enough, or the queen of it all, imposter syndrome, which some of you talk about. Imposter syndrome, like, just has that feeling like all the time that any day now someone's going to rock up to one of our classes and go, you've got no idea what you're doing, okay? And it's just that fear of failure, because we don't want to fail, and we want to be liked. Look, not everyone's going to like you. And when Mrs. Imposter Syndrome kicks in, you do have to step back and think, I spent this many hours training. Prior to that, I spent this many hours doing yoga. Not just that, I think we rule out our other experiences. Like, I was a secondary school music teacher for 12 years. As part of that, I set up a PGCE music training course and trained music teachers. Does this experience impact where I am today? Of course it does. I went to music college, really random. I went to music college, and as part of that, I trained as a performer. Does it make it easier for me to stick a mic in front of my face, a camera in my face, and chat at you guys? Hell yeah. You forget about all your other experiences because we're so fixed on this service that of yoga. Yeah, we know yoga's for everybody. Like, some people gonna love, want that Ashtanga yoga, that really physical style, but some people need a much more gentle, restorative style. Your tribe is out there, yeah. And you are all that you need for your students. And when we come into that place of like just knowing that I'm enough, that those that come to work with me will be blessed, that anybody that comes and doesn't vibe with me, I wish them well, but I let them go, because you don't actually want anyone into your classes, into your office, that isn't enjoying it. You're not going to enjoy working with them, but there totally is enough people for you. The mind is so powerful. And it used to be like, overcome self-limiting beliefs. Look, darling, that ain't going to happen. You've got to learn to navigate your brain, navigate your beautiful brain that is just trying to keep you safe. And we navigate it with thought work. Thought work here is we pay attention to these thoughts, these stories that we're telling ourselves. The next thing is you paid attention, so you've noticed them. The minute you notice it, you can do something about it. All right, you notice it and then you begin to question it. So, like, let's go imposter syndrome, and you've got this class of 10 people that come every week, and every week you're thinking you're not enough for them. Yeah, they come back every week. And how would they feel if you said, look, I'm really sorry guys, I actually think I'm not good enough to teach you, I'm going to stop? They'd be really gutted. Okay, so it's a complete lie, right? Complete lie that you are not good enough for them. Okay, so that is just thought work and learning to navigate your beautiful brain. I'm going to just say again, we do a lot of that in the mentorship program, because everyone thinks like, I need to get better at sequencing. I need to do more training, like an advanced yoga training course. and I'll get it sorted. Honestly, that's just like training procrastination. What you need to do is do the hard stuff and confront the stuff that's coming up, the noise in the mind stuff, and learn to navigate it. It's not easy. It's not black and white. It's not a certificate at the end that says, hey, you've done this, because it's ongoing work. It's ongoing work. And it really does come, unfortunately, with the territory, because I deal with this stuff too. It comes with the territory of being self-employed, female, service-based industry, where we're putting ourselves out there. Okay, but if you don't put yourself out there, people don't get to do yoga with you, and everyone loses in that place. Everyone loses in that place. One question was like general business advice, and I was like, oh, that's a big question. I'd love some general business advice. I'm like, whoa, I can't really answer that question. It's massive, right? But what I liked about this was it's really useful to actually see yourself when we are a yoga teacher. Let's go back to that label. I'm a yoga teacher, right? And everyone just thinks then about the act of teaching yoga. That's the service you provide. Okay, there are two roles you have, two roles, and teacher training courses, and even if you go on and do advanced teacher training or a specialist training course, they address the teaching side of your role, right? But they don't often address the other side, which is running a business. Now, I am totally with you when you're like, oh, but I just want to teach yoga. I was like, that was 100% me. Like, I just want to teach yoga. I certainly don't want to be hours up my computer. So, I make sure that isn't something that happens very often for me, but sometimes it's needed. But I woke up to this idea that if I wanted to teach yoga, if I wanted to be full-time in my business, I could create a business that allowed me to take my kids to and from school, all right? I needed to get my business head on, all right? And think like a boss, a CEO of my yoga business, dropping that sort of like employee mindset where I'm kind of waiting for people to tell me what to do. The only person that tells me what to do in my yoga business is me. I feel there's a real feeling that we've got to learn the business side of things. And yeah, there are things that you can learn, like some simple strategies that you can learn that makes just running your business easy. But I have come full circle, because in recent years, particularly since COVID hit and I took my business online, and I was like, you know what? I've got something scalable here, and I gotta get this together. My website's rubbish. I don't have a mailing list. I've just got to get this together. Rather, when I started to reach just beyond my local reach, I've done a lot of training recent years on the business side of things, and it has really brought me full circle, actually, that yoga teachers are everything we need. We have everything we need to communicate, talk to people about how we can help them, to invite them ethically into our offers, and to share the gift that is yoga. We feel like we should do all these things. We feel like we should be able to do all these yoga poses, right? We feel like we should be doing all these things in our yoga business, but they don't light us up. I'm like, I really don't want to do this, but you feel like you should do it. But that is a highway to nowhere. One of the ladies, one of the questions, sorry, was, I'm just not online. I'm an online avoider. How am I going to make this work? And I love this question because it kind of links into this general business advice. You got to get really clear on what it is you want to create. It's not just about, I want to be a yoga teacher. I want to teach yoga. Great. You're self-employed. How do you want to work? What is the way you want to work? What is the life you want to create? How much money do you want to earn? Get really clear on this stuff, because that allows you to reverse engineer what it is you say yes to, what it is you create, and what it is you say no to, right? And if you're like, for me, I just don't want to be online. Look, there are, I don't know the number, but I know there are plenty of yoga teachers that are not on social media, that may not even have a website, right? Working locally, okay, that don't need an online presence. And I think we get really stuck into the idea that it must always be about yoga classes, right? Well, there are people that work corporate, so who've contacted, they physically, now look, here's a great thing. Imposter syndrome, or just feeling like you're not enough. I'm saying to you, right, why don't you reach out to some local businesses and say, hey, I'm a local yoga teacher. Would you like me to come in and teach yoga? Okay, within the office space, I can work one-to-one, I can do a group class, maybe a massage therapist, and you can also offer some massage. Like, there are so many offices that are really into this stuff, right? This does not require you to have a website. It just requires you to pick up the phone, write an email, follow something up. I've sent you an email. I wonder if you're interested. Can I come in and meet you? This takes a lot of courage, because your primal brain that wants to keep you safe will be like, don't do this. They won't want you. You don't want them to not respond to the email. You don't want them to say, no, thank you, not for us, because you're going to be rejected. Rejection happens, but you want rejection because you only want to go to places where you're meant to be. But absolutely, if you don't want an online business, you don't want an online presence at all, then you can you've got to think locally, and you've got to think, right, okay, get a pin on where you live, draw like a 20 minute radius out from where you live, and think, here are all the businesses, here are all the spaces, where I might be able to go and deliver yoga. There's a community center, there's a school, there's some offices, and go out and talk to them. And you can create an income, you can create a yoga business from that 20-minute circle radius from where you live, by just going to physically talk to people. People haven't had to find you on Google. People haven't had to watch you do a dancing reel on Instagram. Okay. But yeah, totally possible to have no online presence. It's really interesting, actually. I move around in a couple of different worlds, and one of them is like online course creators and people who have big online businesses, like way bigger than me, and they talk about time before social media, and many of them, interestingly, are beginning to move off social media. Now, they have an online business, they still have an online presence, they're doing stuff like podcasting or writing a blog, using something like LinkedIn, good search optimization on their website, but they're not on social media. They're coming off social media. Interesting. So I'm not saying like leave social media tomorrow. Am I leaving social media tomorrow? No, I love my Instagram party, right? But don't feel like you have to be on Instagram in order to have a profitable yoga business, in order to be successful as a yoga teacher. So business advice, going back to that point, I just think as well, we just completely think that we should just have it sorted after day one. Like, first time you went to a yoga mat, how was it? One teacher put, I'm loving running the classes, but I feel clumsy advertising and marketing my offers. And I'm like, this teacher's relatively new. And I'm like, you just started out. When I do anything new, I don't care what it is, what the task is, I can get it wrong. I can be a bit clumsy, a bit awkward. That's how I learn, and that's how I get better. The thing is, though, when we're often comparing ourselves, we compare ourselves to people who are 5 years, 10 years, even ahead of us. It's much better to try and look at someone 6 months, 12 months down the line, see where they are. They prove it's possible. They show you the road, the light that you can go down. So general business advice, you just have to practice it. Join my mentorship program, and I will demystify all of those things that seem hard about business. I'm a major fan of working smart and not harder. I want to just teach yoga. I want to teach yoga, hang out with my kids and my family, and go surfing as much as I can, right? So I do not spend hours at my computer. So I work as smart as I can, and I'm happy to share all of that with you inside my mentoring program. A lot of you talk about that sense of time, right? And it was coming up for a lot of you, like, how juggling it all. I have a job, I have a paid job, I'm part-time in my yoga business, I have children, I have a young family. One teacher talks about, sometimes feeling guilty, like she was missing the best years of her children's life, like working. What I want to say is, look, I have 2 children. I've got a 10-year-old and 7-year-old. I had a yoga business before them. I have massively grown my business since having them. And I just know, sometimes it's like you're working, you have a deadline, and you have to do something, and you feel like you're being pulled away from family time. That just happens. Sometimes you've mismanaged your time, we've got a lot going on, and you work late. And I don't think people often talk about this. I think there's a lot of talk, particularly on social media, about like work, let go of the hustle. I only work certain hours a week. And for some people that really works, but you often are seeing the end game. You're often seeing someone working 10 hours a week, but you haven't seen where they were at the start of their business. Now, they might have been just doing 10 hours a week in their business from the start. But I know from experience that a lot of the time in the early stages, when you're building in the groundwork, you do work very, very hard. But it's not forever, because that's not the way I want to work, right? And there's an end game. And also remember, you're self-employed, right? So you decide when you want to work, right? You decide if it's an app. I'll give you an example, right? I, for many years, taught on a Saturday morning. It worked when my kids were really young. They go to school now, and my eldest is heading off to secondary school soon. And I was like, you know what? I just don't want to work every Saturday morning teaching a 9 o'clock class. So it didn't seem like a lot, right? One class on Saturday morning, but it was really eating into what I felt was precious family time, and I was beginning to resent it. So I changed things up. I stopped a profitable class, and it was really hard to do. I also think as well, like, I work, my husband works. Sometimes he does the school run, sometimes I do the school run. I like to show my children that I work and my work produces results, but not only that, that I'm infused by my work job and I love it. So do women, we find guilt in everything. It's okay that you work. It is okay that you work, and it's totally okay for your children to see you working some of the time. Of course, the challenge is if it begins to build up resentment and you're feeling like this is taking me away from my kids and this is not what I want, you have to change it. You have to change it, because that's just not sustainable. That energy comes through, that resentment comes through. I read Gay Hendricks' The Big Leap a few months ago now, and I feel like it's like that book. You know, you read, I'm always reading books, you know me, but there's a few that just go, that book has changed me. There are two actually in my life. I just feel like, other than Harry Potter, I love Harry Potter. Other than Harry Potter, Jen Sincero, You Are a Badass at Making Money, and Gay Hendricks' A Big Leap. Those two books for me just were like, oh yes, this is it. Jen Sincero is going to help you out with thought work, money mindset. Gay Hendricks, I loved it. Your zone of genius. Stepping into that place that lights you up. When you step into that place that lights you up, the ego drops away. You're not feeling like people, you magnetize people towards you anyway. The business side of things just going to happen because you literally have gone, this is what I'm meant to do. And the universe just helps to line it up. Yeah, I think it just sometimes takes a bit of time to find that, you know. And how do we find it? How do we know? We play, we practice, we see what we like, we see what we don't like, we see what we're successful at, we see what we fail at, and that we learn just as much from our successes as we learn from our failures. You know, failure is part of actually having a business. And remember, you're not just a yoga teacher, but you're a business owner. Okay. And that business mindset helps you to accept failure. Gay Hendricks also talks about time being relative, and breaking the habit of feeling like we haven't got enough time, that we're always having to rush here, there, and everywhere. We can often create that. I can't remember what episode it is, but the episode on overwhelm, go back and listen to that. I'm so guilty of this all the time, over planning what I'm going to do in a day, in a week, and then feeling like I haven't got enough time. Who planned all this stuff? Me. Why? You know, so we can often create that sense of I've not got enough time. Okay, when you've got young children and life's busy, it can be a juggling act. What does yoga teach us? First of all, nothing is permanent. Okay, your young children aren't young children forever. It does really change. Also, Gay Hendricks talks about time being expansive, but we stop saying I haven't got enough time, I'm really busy, I'm really pushed for time, and we start knowing we have enough time. And my favorite thing, and I'm not sure this is Gay Hendricks actually, but you are right where you're meant to be. So I felt a lot of people who replied to my survey and asked me a question were feeling like they weren't enough and hadn't achieved enough in their business already. And I'm like, whoa. Even if it's one class a week that you're doing, just step back and celebrate all your successes. Celebrate, like, maybe the classes are empty, but you've got a website, right? Okay, you've done some training, the door is open for this to happen. So that sense of being grateful, celebrating your successes rather than focusing on what you still haven't achieved, what you want more of. Okay, that's really powerful. And knowing that there is enough time is expansive, helps sometimes when we're feeling like, oh, I've got all these things to do, think, well, actually, how long, this is time management, how long was that task? And then diarising when you're going to do that task and make it non-negotiable when that's going to happen, right? Because when you're self-employed, you have to manage your own time. That's part of the job of a yoga boss. Okay. You have to manage your own time. And as an individual, I like in the mentoring program, I model how I manage my time. I put out some suggestions of other ways, but you've kind of got to figure it out yourself, right? Because the way you work best, the way you're going to best manage your time will be unique to you. Time is expensive. I'm exactly where I should be in my business right now. Oh, I hear you. I hear the guilt and I hear that feeling of juggling it all. Okay. Big hug, lots of love. Quite a few of you asked or spoke about like sequencing help, planning classes, the challenge of not overworking, like investing a lot of time in planning. I get that. Okay. And particularly when we've newly qualified, we may feel that need to plan more in depth. So it gives us a bit of support. I just want to say, just make sure that you're finding some time, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to keep your own practice alive. How am I drawing in and finding and doing new sequences? I'm using my body and playing. Like, reality is, when I'm teaching yoga, I'm sharing my experience. All right, like I'm just in the practice for the bodies in front of me, but I'm sharing my experience in the practice, right? And that comes from practicing, going to classes, going to retreat, signing up to more training. Okay, then my mentorship program does have a monthly teaching clinic, which includes a class, doing some practice, and this inspires your sequencing. There's some books out there. Is it Mark Stevenson, Yoga Sequencing? There's cards. Like, some people really love the books. For me, it's always been quite I like to learn by doing. So I do the practice, I play with it, and then I share it with my students. So sequencing help. Yeah, I often feel like you actually got what you need. That's just coming from a place of doubt, that over planning coming from a place of doubt that you're not enough. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Like, I've got to spend this amount of time planning, right? But you're over delivering because you don't feel like you're enough, right? And that puts pressure on our time, and then we feel like we're juggling it. You see, like, we separate all the stuff. I've got the business side of things, I've got the planning, the sequencing, the teaching, the children, the school runs, the shopping, the housework. Look, this is all you. This is all your life. It's like the human body. We separate. Here's the quadricep, here's the hamstring. It's the muscles that wrap the thigh bone. It's the tissues that wrap the thigh bone. Okay, the separation is what we create. So just seeing it more holistically can help. You know, come along to my yin classes. If you want some inspiration for the yin sequence, you can sign up to my yoga library. There's over 100 classes in that. Do some practice. It will inspire you for some sequencing. Join my mentorship program, monthly teaching clinic, where we look at an aspect of teaching yoga. I answer your questions in the mentoring program about teaching. A lot of the time when I'm answering questions about people's actual teaching, I'm actually just reassuring them that they're right. Because you already know, if you've done your 200-hour teacher training and you've been practicing yoga for a couple of years, I am very confident that you already know enough to support the students that come to your classes, right? Because we're all at different stages. We're all at different stages in evolution, and so are our students. And that's why it's brilliant that you are teaching. So a lot of it, room hire availability, that came up. Yeah, this is a real post-COVID thing. That not every yoga studio survived, not every village hall reopened, and it has definitely felt like there isn't that as much availability on space. So I really hear you with that. That's challenging. Eyes open to opportunity. We often think yoga studio, village hall, but I know people that run classes of an evening in a space that's used for something else during the day, like an art gallery, for example. So keep your eyes open, and don't forget that the online world is certainly not dead. Consistency, feeling like consistency is hard when our class numbers are low. Oh gosh, yes, totally. It's hard, isn't it? It goes back to that question right at the start, that the lady who's teaching pregnancy yoga, and it's just hard, isn't it, to turn up week in, week out, when maybe you've got 3 or 4 students booked out and you're like, wow, I'm gonna break even if I'm lucky. They do listen back to episode 23 and 22. Okay, I talk about filling yoga classes, and one of the things I talk about is these 3 or 4 students that are turning up every week, just being so grateful, turning up and showing for them, they become your raving fans. They bring other students in. The other thing that with this statement of that from this teacher was consistency hard when some of my class numbers are low, right? I see this a lot. People teaching too many weekly classes. So I would say what would happen, let's say you're teaching 8 classes and you drop it down to 6. Now I know what will happen. You go, oh, not everyone can make the class times. That's why I was doing the class there. Darling, this is just over giving. This is just over delivering, right? This is just people pleasing. Stop. You reduce down to 6 classes. Yeah, all right. Not everyone can make those class times. It's not your problem, but a lot of people will, and you find that you get those classes full first. So I am like, when you're building your class schedule, if you're teaching weekly classes, don't be tempted to teach too many classes in that week. Get one class full. Get one class full with a waiting list, then add in another, then add in another. Okay. So you're not doing loads of classes that I've got like half full, right? Okay, so reduce your class timetable and see what happens. Lots of you talking about, I guess, what I would call marketing, visibility, growing your community. A lot of you word it like, how can I reach more people? How can I advertise better? How can I tell people about my classes? Momentum. I just feel like every time you do some action, okay, I'm going to give you examples of those actions. I think I've already said them today. Chatting to someone out and about. Hey, I'm teaching yoga around here. Replying to an email. Hey, you can come to this class here. Putting a post on social media. This is how you can work with me. Making an intentional effort to invite people onto a mailing list, and those people, whether it's 1 or 1,000 or 10,000, you talk to those people about your mailing list about how you can help them, how they can do yoga with you. You put a post on your personal Facebook page saying, hey friends, I'm starting a yoga class, if you know anyone, let them know. You are encouraging your current students to tell all their friends, right? It builds up a momentum. And if you ever wonder why, like, I'm sure you may all know this teacher that has been teaching for years, right? And the classes are just effortlessly filling. She hasn't even got a website. You're like, what is this? Like, there's a teacher. She teaches in the village where I teach, but she doesn't teach in the same space. She teaches in another space. She's been teaching in this space for 20 plus years, right? You can't find her. You can't find any evidence of this teacher other than the 15 plus women who rock up every week, every Tuesday and Thursday to her classes, because they just know, right? This happens, but it does take time, and it does take sort of like an intentional, consistent effort from you. It doesn't mean that you've got to be doing stuff every day, all the time. Yeah. Consistency is finding an energy that aligns with you and communicating and talking to people in a way that aligns with you. So if you don't want to do a dancing reel on Instagram, you don't have to. It's probably not going to get people coming to your classes. My main advice in terms of talking to people, this is how I can help you. These are the problems you may have. This is how I can help you. All right. That's marketing, right? The end part of marketing is selling. Do you want it? Inviting them into your offers, but in a way that, like, if you don't want it, it's fine. Maybe next time, or maybe we're meant to be together. Like, that creates a sense of like you are just magnetizing the right people into your offers. And this is a bit woo-woo, and I think it's hard, isn't it? Because you're like, no, just tell me the formula. Give me the exact formula to do it. And there are plenty of people out there, right, in the business world saying, follow my formula, download my email templates. I don't know why I'm doing that silly voice, but they're not doing that silly voice, right? There's plenty of people out there peddling formula, and you're like, oh, that's the one, and that's one, and that's one, and then you get overwhelmed, and you don't think enough time to implement people's formulas, right? No, you have all you need. The answer is in you. The formula to grow your audience is in you, and it takes time, and it takes a bit of bravery, like asking those people that are already coming to your offers to help you. Also getting in front of other people's audiences, that can work really well, both online and in person. Okay, then one lady teaches a lot of friends that come to her class, but then they often cancel last minute and then she doesn't make any money. Right. Boundaries, 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 whether they're your friends or clients, I don't care, right? What's your cancellation policy? Personally, I would be encouraging people to buy in blocks, encouraging people to come in week out. I would like to see your drop in either much more expensive, or maybe you don't even offer the drop in, particularly if your classes are full. Drop the drop in. And if you do have drop in, make it less attractive. People in the block, make them commit. And if they're going to cancel, which cancellation policy? Like in my blocks, it's like, if you miss a week, I'm sorry, classes do not roll over. My kids go to a swimming lesson, that's the terms and conditions, they're up front. I understand that they've got to pay for the pool, they've got to pay for the teacher, like I've got to pay for the studio, I've got to pay for my fuel, I've got to put food on my table. Like, honestly, business, you're a business owner, all right. The service the swim school provides is swimming lessons. The service I provided yoga teaching. The business is the business. Okay. So boundaries on that one. And then lastly, one teacher is doing something really exciting. She is building a studio in her garden. So I want to say to this teacher, I'm super excited. Welcome to the club. I have a little studio in my garden, which I could, if I wanted to teach in person, I think I could fit 3 people in it. I don't. I purely use my studio to so I don't do my podcast from it. I'm in the cupboard under the stairs if you're watching on YouTube, because it's too big. My cupboard on the stairs is really small, so it's really good acoustic wise. But my studio, I live stream my weekly Zoom class from, I run my training from, I run my mentorship program from. I also create content, pre-recorded content for my courses, and on-demand yoga library. So yeah, I use my studio for a lot. I hide in it as well. I hope my husband, no, I hope my husband's not listening to this podcast. He edits my podcast, so he now knows I hide in my studio. No, but it's a great place because it's outside, so I can remove myself from the family life to work. And I think going back to those of you talking about juggling it all, and when we're self-employed and a lot of the work we're doing behind the scenes at home, it's where's the family life versus work life? And like, it all blurs into one, doesn't it? There's no separation. So if you do consider using either a space in your garden or space in your house to run your business from, the pros of that is, like, all of a sudden the stress of like having to find that rent goes, and also you don't have to drive. So lots of pros. And then I also feel like it's a space of possibility. Like, you can do loads in there. You can try things out. That might fail, but you haven't had to lay down effectively a cost, other than the cost of the big cost of building the studio. If it is small, so actually I can think of, actually, do you know what? I'm going to finish with a really lovely example of a Bowen therapist and yoga teacher that I go to regularly. She is not on social media. She does have a website. I would not be able to tell you the last time she updated her website. Like, it's very, very basic, and I know she doesn't spend any time on it. She teaches yoga in small groups. She can get 4 people in her space, and she runs Bowen, so she works one-to-one. She just relies almost exclusively on word of mouth, but she's built up over time, right? Not got an online presence really. She's diversified her offers because she's got yoga and she's got the Bowen, but still under the umbrella of bodywork. And she charges appropriately because you've only got 4 people in the space, so it's a more expensive place and people have to charge in blocks. So I would say, if you are running one-to-one, small group classes in a small space, that make sure that is reflected in the price, in the messaging, tailored one-to-one packaging or small group classes. And that comes at a greater cost because you are able to give them more of your energy, more of your attention, more of your input. Then the brain goes, just to finish, I realize this is a long one today, this is the last question. The brain goes, but people won't be able to afford it. Like, people won't pay that. Like, this is where diversifying your offers, going back to how can I make it as a full-time yoga teacher? How can I make consistent income, right? Diversifying your offers. So you've got your one-to-one, your higher ticket offer, your one-to-one or your small group classes, right? But you've also got space you can teach online in. Now, the online world does allow you to help more, leverage your time for money, help more people in one go. Also, like, let's say you do it like one of the ladies in my mentorship program is doing this right now. She is running an online workshop. It's costing her nothing because she's using a closed Facebook group, right? You can set it up pretty much for free. So you could have a cheaper but much more scalable online offer. So people who want to come in at a lower price point can afford you. Oh, it's a long one today, but I'm pretty sure I answered everyone's questions. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, those of you that took the time to fill out that survey, I cannot thank you enough. Your comments, your questions, your words of encouragement and thanks were just, it was just totally uplifting. It's also really helped me to think about my mentoring offers. I'm really excited. I've gone back into my mentoring program, tweaked it around a bit, changed slightly how I'm running it, which has allowed me to reduce the price slightly, but also got me quite excited about at some point in the future, I'm gonna get a higher price one-to-one offer. I feel like I got the feeling like there were two types of people I need to work with. They're those people that, you know, maybe aren't ready to make a big investment. Your students are like this, by the way, like wherever the offer is, aren't quite ready to make a big investment, but want my 13 years of experience to help them run their business, think like a business owner, and support them in their yoga teaching. And then there were others that were like, gee, I'd really like to create a training program, or I'd really like to create an online course and know how to create and launch it. And I was like, yeah, want to make that happen. So it's really helped me get very, very, very clear on how to move forward in my mentoring program. And I just want to say thank you so much. If you are at a point in your yoga business where you're like, so I'm not sure what people want, I'm not sure if what I'm offering is right, do you know what? Ask your students, ask them with your, you know, they'll guide you. They're not necessarily going to know all the answers. Also, remember, you're the expert, you're the teacher. I do going to just finish with this, saying this with an awful lot of love. Many of the people that filled out that health questionnaire, in fact, all of them said they wanted to earn more money. Most of you said you want more help with the business side of things, but most of you said you were going to go and do more training. More training is great. Great. I really do recommend you do it. It's not going to fill your classes. It's not going to help you run your business with ease. It's not going to help this beautiful brain of yours navigate self-limiting beliefs, right? You also really need to make that investment in my mentoring program, okay? Then you can make more money from your wonderful gifts, do as much training as you like. All right, my darlings, I'll see you all next week.